南无本师释迦牟尼佛。南无本师释迦牟尼佛。南无本师释迦牟尼佛。The Sutra opening Gatha, the Dharma infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, to study, and to practice. May we understand and realize the Tathagata's true teachings. Okay. The Prajnaparamita Tritaya Sutra. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajnaparamita, perceives that all five khandhas are empty and is saved from all suffering and distress. O Sariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. O Shariputra, all dhammas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear nor disappear, are not tainted nor pure, do not increase or decrease. There is emptiness, no form, no feelings, no perceptions, no impulses, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and no forth until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance and also no extinction of it, and so forth until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment. With nothing to attain, the Bodhisattva depends on Prajnaparamita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, the Bodhisattva dwells in Nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on Prajnaparamita and attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore, know the Prajnaparamita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajnaparamita mantra. Proclaim the mantra that says, Gade Gade Paragade Parasam Gade Bodhe Swaha. Did you notice I have a new thing on my table? This little table, this little computer table is new. Why don't you ask me who made that for me? Yeah. You know who made that for me? Roshan, her oldest daughter. Isn't that nice? Cute, isn't it? Look. Everybody from Hong Kong, did you see it? It's Evers and Kwok Peng's oldest daughter. She made that during the workday on Sunday. I said, hey, this, it's really too low, the computer, because this is the new computer, is smaller. And I always have to go like this. So last week I discovered on Wednesday, I said, I needed something higher. So I told Ever, I need a little table. She said, who can make it for you? Paul is not here. I said, Roshan. And she asked her and she agreed. She came and she really enjoyed doing this. It's great, isn't it? So yeah, nice. And I asked for a backing, here so that the computer don't fall off the cliff. And she made it. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Thank you. Thank you, Roshan. Okay, so we continue. How come I have two? Do I have two? Oh no. Okay. There you go. Okay, so we continue with the eradication of suffering. So somebody Because somebody told me what are the three animals that we talked about last week? The rabbit, good. The horse, good. And the elephant, yeah. So what does these three animals represent? Crossing to the other side. The level of understanding the level of yeah. Understanding what? Well, we're talking about this whole sutra. Yeah, emptiness. Yeah. Yeah, the sunnata, right? Yeah. So so we all want to become the elephant, don't we? Yeah, we all want to become the elephant. So the eradication of suffering, we continue with perceives that all five khandhas are empty. So we talk about the five khandhas, remember? Last week we talked about the five khandhas. So what is the first khandha? So what's the Pali word for it? Rupa, okay. And then the rest? Vedana, what is Vedana in English? Okay. So when which bring on Vedana? When there is contact of what with what? Consciousness with yeah, Rupa, right? Huh? So consciousness with the Rupa, and then it brings on Vedana when there is sensations, and also there are there's perception, and then there is Sankhara. What is Sankhara in English? What could it be? Huh? Mental formation, volition, habitual behavior, models. Very good. And then what does it do after that? New consciousness. Yeah, that's it's a cycle that it goes round and round and round and round. Very good. Very good. Okay. So now we go on with perceives that all the five khandhas are empty. There are three marks of the khandhas, or three characteristics of the khandhas. So the first characteristic is all the khandhas will bring on sufferings, right? Why is that? Why would khandhas bring on sufferings? It doesn't last. It's impermanent. Yeah, yeah. And so this applies to all the khandhas, and because it is impermanent, it doesn't last, and nature, right? Impermanent. If we are so attached to the rupa or the contact that or the sensations, the vedana that creates because of the contact or the perception, and without understanding, without the proper understanding what's the nature of dukkha, then we will definitely be suffering. We will definitely be unhappy. We will definitely be dissatisfied because we do not understand the nature of the existence of these khandhas. And what do you think? Why would such khandhas, or why would such character, why would such form of khandha actually arise? How? By how? Why would your rupa be like this? Why would your form be like this? Why would my form be like this? Karma. And karma depends on whose actions? Your action, would your actions be the same as my actions? And even if we have the same actions, would they bring on the same karma? Why not? Yeah, dependent, not independent. Dependent arising, because it's about all different conditions, right? All these are conditioned. They arise depending on conditions. So their arising and the form, the consequences of their arising depends on conditions, right? Yeah, yeah, that is one of the conditions too, right? Yeah, okay. So anatta, that means there is no true inherent existence, right? Of all these rupa and khandhas. I mean, not rupa and khandhas, all these five khandhas. So this is a very important concept, a very important understanding that we really need to constantly remind ourselves of the three characteristics or three marks of the nature of khandhas, so that at any moment of life, if something arises and we look at it, say, hey, why am I so upset? Because it changes. Why am I so upset? Because it's like this. Then you remember. Then you start to experience and you start to remember and you start to apply that to your life. Hey, this is impermanent. This is khandha. Or my mind changes. Why would it change? Because of conditions changing, constantly changing. So our experience will constantly change. So the experience that we experience today will not necessarily the same experience tomorrow, right? Because we have already changed and the environment will already change and our consciousness has already changed. Okay. So it's very, very important to remember. And it says the five khandhas are empty. And the Buddha actually gave a simile on how we can actually look at the emptiness of the five khandhas. And he gives us a simile, an analogy. Okay, and he said that form is like what? You we talk about that long, long time ago. We talked about that long, long time ago. You want me to prompt you for on this one, first one? Of course you would, right? The form, the rupa, it doesn't last, okay, and it cannot be grasped, even though we can grasp this. It seems that we can grasp this, but these, remember, these are all made up with four elements, right? So you can feel the solidity, but can you grasp on the solidity? Can you grasp on it? Can you hold on to it? Can you hold on to it? Not permanently. Yeah. You can feel it, but can you grasp on the solidity? You can't really. You feel, but you can't grasp on it. Okay. So he said the form, the rupa, is like the foam, right? The foam comes up. Can you grasp on the foam? Like you wash your hand with the soap. There's a lot of foam coming up. And the foam, will they stay forever? It doesn't stay forever. Just disappear, right? So it's just like the foam. It exists for a little time and then it's gone. Okay. And then the feelings or the sensations or the Vedana, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, whether it's neutral, will they last forever? Of course, you will tell me no. because we keep telling this, we keep saying that it's anicca, anicca. It doesn't stay long. And he actually compared that to guess. You should know this. Huh? Clouds? No, no. Good. Very good. Bubbles. The feelings are like bubbles. Remember the garland that a princess was asking for. I did not tell you the story yet, right? Ah, now, eventually, once that you said you heard that story before, finally, I have told it so many times that you remember now that I really have told that story. Remember the story? The garland of bubbles. Remember the princess asked the king, Father, I wanted a garland. And the father said, Yeah, sure. The king said, Anything, princess, anything that you want. And she said, and then he said, So what do you want? It is made up of. She said, The bubbles in that pond, in that lotus pond. And the king said, Bubbles. How are we going to make a garland? So he said, I don't have the wisdom to make a garland up with bubbles from the lotus pond. Maybe my, what do you say? I something going on. What maybe my, huh? Advisors? Really? Advisors? Okay. Maybe my advisors would know. So he sent out a ultimatum, said, anybody, if nobody is able to make this garland for my princess, I'm going to kill all the prisoners in the prison. So, and then one elder came. He said, nobody would dare to come. And one elder came and said, King, I would be able to make a garland for the princess, but there is depending on one condition. And the king said, Yeah, what condition? The princess has to go with me to the lotus pond to pick the bubble herself. Now you remember. So the king said, No problem. I'll call for the princess. Princess, please go with this elder master to go to the lotus pond. So the princess happily joined the elder master and walked towards the lotus pond. And by the time they get there, the master said, Princess, please pick out the bubble that you want me to make the garland for you. So the princess picked a bubble, it bursted. Pick another bubble, it bursted. Pick another bubble. Before she picked, it bursted already. And the princess realized that it's impossible. So it's just like our feelings. This pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings, it doesn't last. It's just like bubbles. Okay? So don't hold on to the feelings, whether it's pleasant, elated, lovely feelings, or it's sadness, grief, guilt, shame. Don't hold on to it. When it arises, see it from the point of looking at a bubble. See how long it stays. See how does it burst. Okay, then you are actually contemplating on the five khandhas. If you start to when emotions start to come up, emotions is emotions is one kind of feelings. When emotions start to come up, you observe it. How does it how does it last? How does it change? Then at that time you're actually observing the five khandhas, one of the five khandhas. Okay, all right. So the perception. So what did the Buddha say about perception? It is like you surrender. Okay, it's like a mirage. Ah, now I remember. It's like a mirage. Mirage is like something, yeah, illusion, right? Mirage is like when we are driving, we see that there is whole patch of like water on the road, right? By the time we get there, it's nothing. So that is called mirage. Okay. 可以試神流啊 mirages. So it's mirage like. So it only appears to exist, but really it doesn't exist. It's not there. Okay. So it's an illusion. So volition or sankhara. So what does it what did he say about volition? Banana tree, yeah. Why? Why would he say it's a banana tree? It's empty. There is no core, isn't it? A banana tree doesn't have any core. Banana tree is hollow in the inside. Okay, so you peel off a banana tree, you go and peel it off, layers after layers, and eventually you reach the core, and there is no core. It's just a hollow. There's nothing in there. Okay, so this sankhara is compared to like a banana tree. So don't attach to that sankhara. Don't attach to it, and don't think that it will last forever. It's hollow like a banana tree. And the consciousness. So when this consciousness is this mental and the rupa, the contact, and then brings on this mental existence, and there are wholesome deeds and unwholesome deeds, and it creates another new kind of energy, and it goes on and goes on and goes on, and it's like a magician. It's a complete total illusion, right? A magician is illusion, and so is consciousness is actually an illusion. And you think you see this? You think you're looking at it truly? No, it comes and goes. It changes. It changes, and it's actually a very well concealed deception. Okay, it's deceiving us all the time. Who is deceiving you? Your own consciousness is deceiving you. Your own perception is deceiving you. Yeah, our own attachment is deceiving us. Okay, so um, an elder monk said, Chenko says, the five khandhas actually are the root of the 10,000 forms of sufferings, not eight types of sufferings, 10,000 forms of sufferings. And it's the basis of all these 10,000 calamities. Okay, that means sufferings. So because we don't realize that all these khandhas are empty, all these khandhas are conditioned. They arise depending on conditions. So we are so much entangled and entangled and twisted by this, by ourselves. Okay. So he said perceives that all five khandhas are empty. And so the word khandha, empty, is sunyata, okay? Sunyata in Sanskrit, and Pali is sunyata. Okay? And the definition, sunya, that means zero, nothing, empty, empty or void. And it comes from a root word, I don't know how to pronounce this. It means hollow. Okay, and ta, that means ness. This is hollowness. Okay, so emptiness is actually a quality, uh, and we should actually look at this as being empty rather than it is an abstract state of emptiness. Okay, it's being empty, and it is a quality. So in the in the Pali Canon, there is a sutta actually talking about emptiness. It's called the Sunnah Sutta. Okay, Sunnah Sutta is when Ananda asked the Buddha. He said, "It is said that the world is empty. The world is empty, Lord." That means the Buddha. In what respect is it said that the world is empty, or the world is sunya? And the Buddha replied, the Buddha said, insofar as it is empty of a self, there is no true self, or of anything pertaining to a self. Thus it is said, Ananda, that the world is empty. So he said the world is empty because it doesn't have a inherent self. Okay. So, and he goes on, and he said the I is empty. So I is one of the rupa. Okay, the I is empty of a self or of anything pertaining to a self. So the I is made up of what? Of the four elements. So which element is the I? If you could ask. No, it's only these four elements come together in a balanced way, in a favorable way, then you will have a healthy I. If any of these elements become out of balance, if the heat becomes out of balance, or the current becomes out of balance, then you get glaucoma like I did many years ago. Then it becomes a very unhealthy I. But that I is the nomenclature, is a labeling that we give to things like this shape. That's why we are all boxed in to all this concept ever since we were little. And so abstract. This concept for us is so abstract that we have difficulty to come out of from the box. Because ever since we were little, we were taught that this thing with this thing in the middle is called, and with the function of it is called an I. So now we say that there is no such thing as an I, but it's just for convenience. We give it this thing, we call it an I. So where is the I? Which is the I? What is the I? That's why it's so difficult to really break that concept. But we have to keep constantly remind ourselves and keep constantly apply this knowledge that we have into our real life experience in order to really cut it down little by little, layer by layer. Otherwise, it's impossible to actually to really let go. Okay. So he said the I is empty of a self or of anything pertaining to a self. And he continues the form, the eye consciousness, the eye contact. So with the form, and then there is this eye consciousness, the function of the eye with contact to the form will produce an eye contact, right? Any of this, the rupa, the consciousness, and the contact is also an empty. So is the ear, so is the nose, so is the tongue, so is the body. So all the rupa, all the five rupas is empty. And all the five consciousness, or the six consciousness are empty. And all of the contact are empty. Okay, so 18 of them are empty. And so he said the intellect is empty of a self or of anything pertaining to a self. Ideas, intellect, consciousness. That means we're talking about the six consciousness, yeah? The mental part of our existence. So even that is empty because it's constantly changing and it's also made up of conditions. So internet contact is empty of a self or of anything pertaining to a self. Thus, it is said that the world is empty. So that is the smaller world we are talking about, is our own existence. This human existence is a smaller world. But if we apply that to the outer world, the bigger world is still empty. To the universe is still empty. To the mountain is still empty. So it's different world, right? Different type of worlds. So that is that is how the Pali Canon look at emptiness. And we look at it from the Chinese canon. In the Chinese Agamas, the Dharma Discourse on Emptiness, it says, when this exists, that exists. Okay? When this arises, when this arises, that arises. So when there are four elements coming together, the four great elements coming together in this particular form, and we call this a human being. That human being come into this world. Yeah. So that when this exists, that exists. When this arises, that arises. Similarly, when this ceases, that ceases. When our four elements start to disintegrate, start to dissipate at the end of our life, or start to become out of balance. So I don't know whether you recall from the talk that we had on life and death. So at the end of life, what's the sequence of the four elements? Earth goes first, yeah. Water, fire, and air. Yeah, great. Remember. And when we were born, it's completely opposite. Yeah, good. So when this ceases, that ceases. When the earth starts to go, so the water cannot have that ability to that is losing that cohesiveness. So the water, you either have water in tremendous amount, or you're bloating, swelling, or you start to pass it out and you become dehydrated, right? So when this ceases, that ceases. Okay? When this passes, that passes. Or when these pass, this pass too. So when all these four elements starting to disintegrate or dissipate, and at the end, even the breath goes, the air goes, that's the end of our life. Right? So if you are a good baker, or if you are just a baker, then you put the flour there, then you add water, and you make a dough, right? So when there is flour, there's water, you are able to make a dough. This arises, that exists. And then you flatten the dough, you make it into pieces, then you make it into a different form of cookies. Yeah. So that dough becomes different things. And after that flour doesn't exist anymore the way it is before, right? It's completely changed to become another thing. It becomes a cookie, a cooked cookie. Okay. So a cookie is different from a flour, but the flour is in the cookie. So water is in the ocean. The ocean is made up of water. So water exists. That's why the ocean exists. If water goes, the ocean disappears. It's the same. All right. So this is another word of what? A dependent origination, isn't it? So we have a very, very unskillful conception or perception that this world is such concrete and discrete objects, including our own existence. These objects are empty, and even our existence is empty of a so-called a permanent self. It's just that we give them an identity, we give them a designated label, that's all. So in the Mahayana tradition, Nagarjuna is a very, very renowned practitioner. He said such phenomena are empty. This did not mean that they are not experienced. That means that we cannot experience them. we can, and therefore non-existent, only that they are devoid of a permanent and eternal substance. That means they are devoid of a permanent and eternal existence. Yeah, because that substance is constantly changing and it is not permanently there. Since they are experienced elements of existence, they are not just mere names. I love this last one. They are not mere names. They are elements, they are things coming together. But the names are just convenient identification. But we are so trapped by all these identifications. And that's where all the sufferings come from. Yeah. Okay. I want to share with you, this is one of the my favorite depiction of emptiness. You're ready to look at it? Yeah. Zen. The Zen depiction of emptiness, or the Chen depiction of emptiness. So you look at this, you look at this circle. This circle, you can look at it like a circle, you can see it like a bubble, right? And if you want to grasp onto this circle, onto this bubble, is it possible? I draw I draw a big circle here. Can I grasp onto it? Is your perception saying that I'm drawing a circle? It's really because you see, we have a concept. This is called round, and this is called a circle. It's just my finger drawing, and it could be like this, it could be like this, but we already name it. It is a triangle, and this is a square, and this is a rectangle, and this is a circle. What is inside all these? Air. I'm just drawing in the air. I'm just drawing in the space. What is inside this space? Emptiness is so it's so amazing. There's emptiness, right? So you can look at this circle. It seems to be empty, right? It seems to be hollow. Is it holding anything inside? You can say that it's holding the whole universe inside. But you can say that it's holding nothing inside. We are holding a big universe inside our body, but yet we are not holding anything because these are all dependently arising, changing, arising, changing. The thing that you think you're holding on is already changed a moment later, completely different. Okay? So, in order to really look at this, we need this wisdom, we need the prajna. That's why the bodhisattva is called bodhisattva, because they are so wise that they see nothingness inside this circle. All right. So when we have this wisdom, or we should actually challenge ourselves to look at this from what point of view is we should challenge ourselves to look at it. Is there anything in it? We should investigate deeply and clearly what is in it. Is there anything in it? Or if it is my own perception saying that there is something in it. If I completely change the color scheme of this picture, if it is completely white and I draw a white circle on it, did you see anything? You wouldn't be able to see anything, right? So it's just remember, there is really is this circle is just like an enclosure. but there's nothing solid and nothing permanently stably inside. And this this is the nature of phenomena. So the prajna, the wisdom, that we can actually finally look into the reality of this dependent origination and appreciate the things, the way the things are, and appreciate the way we perceive it and appreciate the way we experience it. When we understand more and more on this aspect, then we will be able to detach ourselves more and more from this attachment, this self or this person or that thing or that situation. We will be able to, withdraw ourselves a little bit more and more willingly and wisely. Now we are forced to withdraw. Now we are forced to not react because we know if we react, we're going to create sufferings. But when we start to look at this more and more, we'll start to understand it more and more, then we will start to withdraw and detach with wisdom because we understand. Okay? So now we can go a little bit further looking at this zero, okay? This thing. Sorry, it's a little bit small. Okay. So zero in our modern mathematics, there is nothing. Okay. No matter how many zeros we put in. 1, 2, 3, 4, or infinite zero. But if in front of us of all these zeros, we put something there. Good guess. If we put a 1 there, it becomes a 10,000. If we put a 2 there, it becomes 20,000. If we put another 0 in front and another 1 in front, it becomes such and such number. You see, a 0 is nothing. But if you put something inside or in front of it or behind it, after it, it becomes something else. You see this whole concept of emptiness. You start to understand it a little bit more with this 0. Okay? Yeah? Good, very good. So 0 itself is empty. 0 itself is nothing. 0 itself could be anything. It could be everything. Right? Agree? So, and it is changing. It is dynamic. And it is also vital to everything, to all of its connections. Right? So sunnata doesn't mean complete nothingness. So if you translate, a lot of people translate sunnata to nothingness. It's not nothingness. It's emptiness. Empty of a self. It's a selflessness. It's not nothingness. Inside the circle, there is something. Right? If I draw on it, like Nora said, there is air. You're drawing in the air. There's air inside this rectangle or square. It's not nothingness. There's something in there. But it's just that there is not an inherent self. Okay? So, and it is constantly changing in relation to its own surrounding environment, its own connections to whatever around it or outside of it. Okay? This is my favorite depiction of samatha, and I think it's very, very self-explanatory. So, Anagarika Govinda, he described sunyata. He used the word transparency. He used the word transparency to describe sunyata. He thinks that the word avoids the pitfalls of a pure negation, and he replaces the concepts of substance and resistance and limitation and materiality and all that. That's why he said it's transparency. I sort of agree with him. Emptiness is actually you can really see through it, because when you spread it out like a circle, you just look through it. It's really transparent because it's empty of all the conceptions that we carry. If we do not have any conceptions in our mind, and we will not start to judge right away, this is called a pencil, and this is called a piece of wood, and we call this a little table. If we can start to see through, this table is empty of its own self, but it is made of wood, and the wood is made of pulp, and the pulp is made from a tree, and the tree blah 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 blah. So you start to investigate deeply into the existence of this little table. So you start to investigate deeply into your own existence. When you start to investigate deeply, that's what Chinese Chen does, Zen or Zen does, is you start to investigate into that state of mind at any moment of life. Who am I before I was born? Or does the dog have Buddha nature? So they investigate into this kind of phrases. So it's actually allow one to investigate into their own existence, really dig deep down. I don't know anything about that practice, so I cannot go on saying talking about that practice. But Govinda said the recognition of a higher in a higher reality is you can experience this only in this perfect enlightenment, in a state of perfect enlightenment. Now we are just plainly talking about it. And when we talk about it, it's already, we actually hold ourselves into this box of concepts. We box ourselves in already. So this sunnata, actually you can only experience, any word to describe it is limiting. It's very limited. Okay. So in order to really realize this, you really need to, as Govinda said, you really need to seriously meditate. And when you start to abandon all these thoughts, habits, and start to realize this, you will start to understand more and more about how this mind works, and how you can really come out of it and try to turn this consciousness around. When we are able to turn this consciousness around, then there's possible enlightenment. So, but it's possible. It's possible. It's just like this, right? But it depends on how deep our meditation is. So this is how different scholars or different practitioners see sunyata. Okay. And he says, after the Kutasvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajnaparamita, perceives that all five khandhas are empty. So now we have actually touched on a little bit of the concept of emptiness. So all these Bodhisattva, because they can see, they perceive, they can see through the existence of all existence. All existence are empty. They have that wisdom. That's why they are it says that they are being saved from all suffering and distress. So, and it's saved from all suffering and distress. So, what kind of suffering do we have in this human world? Mm? Attachments, yeah. Attachment to our senses, to our physical existence, to our mental existence, to life, to birth, to sickness, to wherever, whatever. So, just to refresh your memory, we talked about this before. Just to refresh your memory, there are different kind of sufferings, there are different kind of distress, there are different kind of unhappiness, different kind of dissatisfaction, different kind of dukkha. So the first one is dukkha dukkha. Dukkha dukkha is the dukkha of painful experiences. This includes the physical and the mental sufferings of birth, aging, illness, and dying. And also from what is desirable you don't get, and what is undesirable is always constantly there. Okay, so that's the first type of group, the first group of dukkha, dukkha dukkha. And the second group of dukkha is paranama dukkha. So nama, you can see what, right? It's made up of a word nama. So vipare na, that means it's constantly changing, the constant changing nature of this nama, of all things. So is in the mental existence, we don't like changes. We don't like changes, right? But we know everything arises, everything stays, everything changes when it stays, and everything passes. Whether you like it or not, sorry, it happens like this. This is the cycle. No matter how long you want it to stay, it only stay however it long is, it has that seats to stay. Okay, whether you want it to stay longer, whether you want it to stay shorter, it's not up to you. It's not controlled by you. Sometimes you think that you can control it, but really you can't. When we talk about this, I want to talk about this MAID program, MAID, you know, um, medical assistance in dying. People think that they can have control with their life. I I we I watched I watched a clip last night. Actually, I watched it over and over again of this this gentleman with Asperger's disease. He chose to die. I don't think that is in Canada though.
The clinic
Yeah,
is in Switzerland.
yeah, Switzerland. Yeah. So he went. He's American, eh?
The Peter Smedley one? I thought he was British.
Was he? Oh, okay. He went over to Switzerland to have this euthanasia. I watch it over and over and over again, and I come to a conclusion. He think that he has control to his life. He chose to die. His karma brought him to choose to die like that, right? His karma. If he doesn't have that kind of karma, he will not choose to die like that. So I have changed my view again about this MAID program. Is whoever is administering this MAID program for MAID patients, they have that karma. They have that karma. So even though I don't, I think if I was there, I was the administrator. I think I have that karma to become an administrator of a MAID program. Even though I may not agree to it mentally or religiously or morally, but if I am really administering MAID to somebody, even though mentally or religiously or morally I don't agree with that, I definitely have that karma to be able to be doing that, right? Yes,
I'm not worried about
of course there is.
taking lives.
Of course there is.
Like it might shorten yours as an effect.
There is a cause and effect, definitely, but we wouldn't know what kind of effect that will be. There is definitely a cause and effect.
But what about the intention then? If the intention of the person is not to harm, but just to help out, will that still bring about a negative?
You still have to be responsible for the cause and effect.
And the same with the person getting it. Because he's not prepared himself for the journey or to the next karma, right? Or to the next incarnation. He might be very frightened at the very end. Oh, I'm taking my life. Not preparing.
For those MAID people, they seems to be prepared. I don't know. Well, I don't know, but from what I've seen now, it seems that they really wanted it. They really wanted it. They seem to have a sense of relief, a sense of relief. But one thing, if you look, is we're really we should not really discussing this, but I want to discuss it from a karma point of view. Is, for example, your life supposed to live until 80-year old. You have that many you have that lots of time to actually eradicate or change a lot of your not predestined, um, predetermined karma, right? But you shorten it by 30 years. So you're 30 years short. So next life or next future lives, that 30 years of karma that you actually would have a chance to change in this lifetime, you still have to do it. You still have to do it. But you wouldn't be sure that whether you will be born as a human being, though. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So it's a very complicated, but it's a fascinating, it's a fascinating subject. Yeah. Okay. So this the second type of dukkha is, we know that this sort of like enjoyment or happiness from sensual pleasures or wealth or whatever, it's not going to last long. Okay, so the separation from loved ones and the things that you want to get, you don't get, and all this, and of course, and the people that you don't like, and it's always constantly around you. There's constant dukkha. And then the third type of dukkha is the sankhara dukkha. The sankhara dukkha is the dukkha of conditioned experience. Our experience is all conditioned. And these conditions experience a lot of time bring on so much sufferings. I'm sure you experienced that, right? Anything in the first couple, I mean, in the second and the first category are all conditioned experience that we actually will or experience or will experience, right? So that means there's this basic or dissatisfaction pervading all existence, all forms of life, whether you are a human being, whether you are a dog, whether you are a bird, it doesn't matter. So if we do not have this lack of dissatisfaction, if we do not have this sense of this, seeing this life as so dissatisfied, so unhappy, so full of dukkha, and we don't renounce this dukkha, we instead we actually attach more to this life, to this existence, we create more dukkha ourselves. Okay, so remember this all this dukkha and dukkha and dukkha. And the last thing I want to share with you is the story of Sariputra. Okay, this, never mind, overrun. Sariputra, he has tremendous compassion for suffering beings, and one day he was walking out for alms, and the devas wanted to test Sariputra for his compassion. So he sent the deva became a man crying on the side of the road, and Sariputra went for alms, and he said, "Hey, why are you crying?" He said, "Well, you know what? My mom was very ill, and she needed an eye in order to 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 be cured of her illness." You heard about this story before? Remember this story? So I don't know. Okay, so I need to tell it. Okay, and Sariputra, wow, you are such a good boy, such a pious son. Okay, well, the Buddha taught me in order to become liberated, I need a long time to practice, and I need to sever, to be able to sacrifice my whole body, including my head, including my arms, including my whole body, for the sake of being enlightened, to walk on this path of enlightenment. So, okay, I'll give you an eye. So he took his left eye out and give it to the boy, to the son. There you go, take it home so that your mother could be cured. And the man said, "No, you did not hear me. I did not need the left eye. I need a right eye." And Sariputra said, "Oh, I just took my left eye out. Now you told me that you need my right eye?" Okay. I needed to sever my body because that's what the Buddha taught. So I needed to have this compassion. So he took his right eye out and give it to the man. So Sariputra became completely blind, right? And this man threw his eye on the ground and stumbled it and crushed it down. He said, "Oh, this is a bad eye, a rotten eye. How can you give me this eye? How can you cure my mom with this rotten, bad eye?" And Zaraputra was so upset, was so sad. He said, "Wow, suffering beings, so ignorant, so ignorant. Beings are very difficult to teach. Beings are very difficult to come out of their attachments. Oh, it's so difficult to become a bodhisattva, let alone enlightenment. It's so difficult because beings are so difficult to teach. I better go back to my cave and practice on my own." rather than coming out to teach. And at that time, the divas in the heavenly realms appear, and they said, Sariputra, you have great compassion. May your eyes be healthy again. And he regained his eyesight. So that's the story of Sariputra. Extreme, tremendous compassion teaches one to give up one's even so precious this body. We can give it up because of the compassion. And also remember Jin Big Feng, right? Jin Big Feng, the monk who was so attached to this crystal ball last week, remember? Okay, I break this attachment. I'm going into this emptiness, this space, and you cannot catch me. Unless you can tie the universe, this empty space down with chain, then you can come and catch me. Remember that? So you remember all these stories and you keep reminding yourself when you fall into the trap of attachments, make use of one of these stories to allow you to come out. All right? Okay. Okay. We bring our attention to our body, to our breath. We experience these constant changes within this existence. And at this moment, we allow a good thought to arise on our mind for all the benefits that I gather tonight. May I share with all beings, human, non-human, visible, invisible, big or small, far or near. May they be free of enmity. May they be free of miseries. May they start to live in a world with brightness, warmth, and experience this compassionate love and be happy and be peaceful. May more and more people will encounter the words of the Buddha, the great words of the Buddha. Study them, practice them, apply them to their lives so that they can be free of their own shackles, entanglements, and attain this ultimate freedom and happiness. Good. See you all next week. Good night.